Well, thank you, Cinda, for reading. If you've been here during the summer, we've been exploring this topic of faith. What is it? How do you get it? How do you get more of it? What does it look like? And we have a great resource, because in the book of Hebrews, of course, chapter 11, the whole chapter, but verse 1 gives us a working definition of faith. But the writer doesn't stop there. He goes and gives us these narratives, these people, as a way to say, you want to know what faith is? Go look at their lives. And here I'm going to give you a pointer, and he points to them. And the one we read today was rather long, and it's ironic because Isaac only gets one line in the book of Hebrews. It says, by faith he invoked blessings on Jacob and Esau. And yet, when you get into the story in Genesis 27 of what Isaac's doing when he's blessing, it's a tremendously rich story, which is why I asked Cinda to read it, because I wanted you to see one word that would kept reappearing over and over and over again. And if anybody can guess it, we're interactive here at Soul Grace. What word did you hear echoed again and again in the passage that Cinda read? Just shout it. Anybody? Begins with a B. Blessing, yes. Bless, blessings, blessed, blesses, and then curses. The whole passage is about this thing called blessing and the lengths to which people will go to get this blessing from Isaac. And so even in the book of Hebrews, it says this is by faith Isaac invoked blessing. So the writer of Hebrews wants us to see faith from the standpoint of the blessing this morning. Now, blessings for us are tough because this word, if you've come here anytime, you've heard me criticize the English language because it is weak in many regards. And the English language, the word blessing does not capture the depth and the length and the breadth that this word in Hebrew means. It's much deeper than that. And I want to explore that with you today. I want us to see what the blessing is, what blessings are in life, how it applies to us, how we try to get them, but then ultimately how we can get it, how we can get blessing with a capital B. All of Isaac's story in Hebrews, all of his faith is hung up in the fact that he was a blessing man. And so we have to look at the blessing. And again, in English, when I say, oh, bless you, or bless your heart, maybe you have like a nice grandma. He says, bless your heart. Oh, what a blessing you are to me. You know, things like that. See how soft and nice and cushy that is? That's nothing like what's going on here. Nothing to the extent of the power of what's going on between Isaac and his two sons, Esau and Jacob, and the wife, Rebekah. So I want to unpack this first. I want to spend the majority of our time looking at what the blessing is, because again, we've lost this, especially in Western culture. By far and away, we've lost the idea of what a blessing truly is. I want to bring that back to us. Then I want to look at how we, like Jacob, mistakenly go about getting the blessing. And then I want to look at how the gospel gets us that blessing. First, the blessing. Now, this is more than you think. This is not, again, a grandma with nice words, oh, bless your heart, dear. No, and you know why? Because you see in verse 33 in Genesis 27, if you look back, the minute that he realizes that the blessing went to the wrong person, it says he trembles violently. And he says, Esau says, don't you have anything for me? And you and I would look at it and say, well, Isaac, come on, just take it back. You gave it to Jacob, the little trickster. Just say, I didn't mean it. I had my fingers crossed. Take backsies, whatever you want to do. Take it back. Send the word police and bring it back. You don't have, you gave the blessing, but he tricked you, so give it back. But Isaac knows, I can't do that. I can't do that. And he trembles violently. Why? Because a blessing, all blessings in Old Testament times, were deeply significant. They were the way in which a father would look at a son and say, now you're important. Now you're valuable. Now, before you were just the heir, you were just a promise, but now it's real. Now it's heavy. It's words of affirmation. Do you go back and read in Genesis 27, these words that Isaac pours onto Jacob, that everybody's going to worship him, and he's going to have that dew of the heaven. I mean, wouldn't you love if your father said you're going to have the dew of the heaven? That's a blessing. He's giving him words of affirmation, of recognition. He's saying, now, Jacob, who he thinks is Esau, now you matter. So a blessing is much, much more than we think. And here's the thing. Words. People tend to say, these are just words. Isaac just said words. What do they mean? I mean, they're just words. And, you've heard me probably critique this, and I'm sorry if you've taught your children this, but this, the little rhyme you tell your kids to say on the playground, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That is the biggest lie you could ever tell your kids, and you know it to be true. You know it deep in your heart that sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will kill you. And you know this why? Because you know how you and I hang on the every word of criticism that we get, of praise that we seek. Words are infinitely valuable. Words have weight, have matter, and that's what a blessing was in this time. It was the words of recognition that the son always wanted from the father. And Jacob wants it, and he wants it so bad. He wants it terribly bad. Sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will affirm you. Words will praise you, or words can cut you down. And you and I know this to be a truth. If you've lived it all, you know the power of the words that people speak to you in your everyday life. When somebody cuts at you and you can't let it go. When somebody says something negative about you and it eats you away. When somebody criticizes you and you think about that before you go to sleep at night and you think about it when you wake up in the morning. Words. Blessings. The blessing here is the spiritual uncovering. It's the way in which Isaac says, in essence, to his son, now you matter. And let me give you a silly example. I'm going to open up an emotional childhood wound for you this morning, kind of, sort of, with my sad soccer story, to just tell you what this blessing thing really looks like. And you probably have your stories about this as well. I call it my sad soccer story, and I know some of you from other countries, so it's football where you're from. I'm from America. We'll do soccer. Sad soccer story goes together. Let me tell you this, and let me show you what a blessing is and what it can do. Now, all my life I played soccer since I was a little kid. I love it. And I have a brother, 2 years older than I. He also played soccer. Now, the difference was he played well. I, not so much. As a small child, I had legs so skinny that it looked as if somebody put baseballs in my kneecaps. I had such knobby knees that would knock together when I ran, clumsily and awkwardly. And you've heard me say this too. I had an enormously large head that was too big for its size. I basically was a walking Q-tip, okay, as a kid. And that's what I looked like. So you could put that picture together, and you're getting the sense that I really wasn't athletic at all. Now, what's my sad soccer story? Here it is. I can remember distinctly. I remember this distinctly. My brother was he's on the starting team. And one year we got to play together. I believe I was 8 and it would have made him 10 years old. And I remember still this very distinctly. It was an extremely hot day like this in August, actually, in northeastern Ohio when I was a little kid. And we were part of the same team. And they called it in America, they call it a traveling soccer team, which means it's kind of cool for kids because you get to travel an hour, with your parents, actually travel to other cities and play other cities. And it was really competitive. I don't know how I was on the team, but I never really got to play. Always on the bench, big head, knobby knees, never in the game. Okay, now fast forward. I remember a very, very hot day. And this is going to be so sad, sorry. I can't believe I'm revealing this in public, but that's okay. I love you guys. So here you go. A very hot August day, and my brother is running up and down the field, and I think he had scored at least 2 goals at the time, something like that, which in soccer is a lot, okay? And I remember sitting on the bench, and finally the coach, I think he had a mercy rule where he had to play every kid or something, so he looks at me, sad sack over here on the bench, and says, okay, get in there, you go play now. So this is my moment, okay? I don't think I'd played all season. This is my moment of glory. Absolute glory. I'm enthralled. My knobby knees are knocking together. My head's wobbling back and forth. And I get on the field and I'm in a blur and I'm in a haze. And I'm running. I'm giving it my all, my passion. I'm putting it all out on the field, as they say. I'm pouring sweat. I'm about to pass out. Comes towards the end of the game, closer to the end of the game. And I get the ball. And I'm about 18 yards away, which is not that far away. And I figure, this is my one shot. This is all I got. If I don't do something with this now, it's all done. Coach ain't going to put me back in the game, so you know what I did? I let it rip. I kicked the ball. And it had this beautiful arc. I was facing the goal on the left side, so it had this beautiful arc to the right side. You guys are imagining, you World Cup fans, what this looks like. Everything froze in time. The ball looks like it's going to go over the crossbar, comes right down, looks like it's about to dip in, and then, boink, off the bar. Didn't go in. Okay, now that's why it's a sad soccer story, because I didn't get the shot, I didn't get the goal in. But you could imagine me at the time. I'm jumping up and down. I'm jumping up and down, and then I freeze, and I'm looking around for like teammates, and some of the teammates are saying, nice shot. That's a pretty good shot from 18 yards out to arch it over there. And it came within about an inch or two to get in. Now, why do I tell this story? Because I can remember still to this day, getting into the car with my brother and me. And I remember I was in the back seat, he was in the front, and I leaned forward in eager anticipation to hear my father say, nice shot, Aric. But he didn't say it. Instead, he looked at my brother and he said, good job. I was crushed. You imagine an 8-year-old kid with no athletic ability, and I get within an inch, and all I wanted was my father's blessing, just to say, nice shot. And he gave it to my brother. Now, why do I give that sad story? Because I know in your life, you may not have a sad soccer story, but you have a story that tells you what the words of the Father say. I desperately needed him to affirm me. I desperately needed his recognition. Fast forward some 20-some years later, and I'm no different than that knobby-kneed, big-headed little kid leaning forward, craving the blessings, wanting to hear just 2 words, nice shot, that never came. It's the same way in your and my life. This is what we do. We seek the blessings. We don't seek it necessarily, some of us from our fathers. Some of you may be from your father or mother, the word of the blessing, the nice shot, the good job. Some of you may seek it from your job. Some of you may seek it from friends or from relationships. But whatever you're going to do, I guarantee you this, you and I will always be searching for the blessings in life. And let me explain what I mean by that. Everybody needs the blessing. Everybody. And you need a blessing and I need a blessing from outside of ourselves. We cannot do it ourselves. That old Saturday Night Live skit, and I'm really old because some of you probably don't know what Saturday Night Live is. The old Saturday Night Live skit where the guy looks in the mirror. You remember this? And what's his name? I forget his name. But he says, I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like me. Now, let's do a little exercise. That won't work, by the way. Try it. But let's do this little exercise. Let's say that you wake up every day this week, just this week, and you look in the mirror, and you tell yourself, I'm the smartest person in the world. Give it a try. Okay? Now, if you wake up, you look in the mirror and you say, I'm the smartest person in the world. Now, that may make you feel good, may make you feel smart. For about a minute, you give yourself the blessing. Okay. And you may convince yourself of it. Now, what if I walk up to you, me, Pastor Allen, and I look you dead in the eyes and I say, I think you're the smartest person in the world. You may feel, if you have put any credibility into what I say, you may feel a little nicer, right? The mirror was nice, but getting it, from Pastor Allen, that's better. He says, I'm the smartest person in the world. Now, let's be real silly. Let's be real extravagantly silly. Let's imagine you're face-to-face with Stephen Hawking. And Stephen Hawking, in all of his wisdom, looks at you and says, I think you're the smartest person in the world. Which one of those 3 are you going to Facebook? Which one of those 3 are you going to post online? The one where you told yourself you're the smartest, the one where the Pastor Allen told you the smartest, or the one where Stephen Hawking? And you know what that proves? It proves this. In all of our lives, we seek the blessings, and it can't come from within us. And it has to come from without us. And usually the blessings we seek are from the people that we feel are important, the people that we feel carry weight in our life. Usually, almost always, we are in desperate pursuit of a blessing, of people to look at you and me and say, you're good. You're good. We desperately seek that. Jacob is no different than us. The story of Jacob, do you know what he does here? Esau, they're twins, but Esau technically is the firstborn. And all throughout their lives, it says that Isaac loves Esau. And it says Rebekah loves Jacob. So all of Jacob's life, he's looking at Esau. He sees Esau getting all the blessings, functionally speaking. He sees the father, Isaac, looking down at Esau and saying, I love you. And Jacob, it eats at him. He yearns for this. He needs it. And this is why, this is easy to pass over in English. It's a Hebrew idiom. When Jacob goes to Isaac, and he says, I am Esau, your firstborn. When Esau goes into Isaac, do you notice what he says? He says, I am your firstborn Esau. Why do they flip-flop? Well, in Hebrew, the last thing you said is the most important thing. The last thing you said is what you want other people to know you as. This is why Jacob says, I'm Esau, the firstborn. I want to be your firstborn, Jacob says. This is almost as if I walked up to you and I said, hi, I'm Aric the chef. Or I'm Aric the soccer player. Or I'm Aric the painter. You see, what I end with is what I want you to know me as and recognize me as. And when Jacob goes into Isaac's room and he says, I am Esau, your firstborn, what he's saying is, Dad, all of your life you've functionally given the blessing to him. You have favored him, and now I want the blessing. I need it. I crave it. And nothing is different with you and me. We are all Jacobs, running around seeking the blessing either of our earthly father or seeking the blessings of others in our lives, seeking the affirmation and the recognition, the one that says, nice shot, good job. And we crave it, and we yearn it, and we're willing to do almost anything for it. How does Jacob get it? Or try to? I said I was going to spend most of the time talking about the blessing and unpacking that. And hopefully you see now that blessings are words, but they're weighty words. They weigh on you. They can lift you up or tear you down. And Jacob wants that word from his father, and he needs it and he craves it. How does he do it? And how do you and I do it? More often than not, you and I try to get blessings in our lives the same way Jacob and Rebekah do in this story. By dressing up. Do you see what Rebekah's doing with Jacob? Jacob knows that if he goes into the Father and asks for this blessing, if he wants affirmation and recognition and attention and all the love that he's always craved, and if he wants it, he knows he has to do one thing and one thing alone. He has to pretend to be something he is not. See, when you and I go around in our lives seeking the blessings of everyone around us, seeking everyone to bless us and to give us the recognition we feel we deserve, we often do it, most often just like Jacob, by dressing up, by covering, by pretending to be something we're not, pretending to be polished, well-to-do. We've got our act together. We're in control. We feel that if we dress up in that way, that people will be able to touch us and say, wow, you really do have it all together. Bless you. Good job. Nice shot. Our attempts to dress up are no different than what Jacob did thousands and thousands of years ago. It's his way of saying, I know that if you see me for who I really am, you won't bless me. So I will do everything in my power to cover up. He puts on fake fur so he can seem like Esau, who's a hairy man. He puts on Esau's clothes because at that time, before showering, everybody kind of had their own distinct funk. So you knew somebody when they were coming up, how they smelled. And so he says, I know I gotta feel like somebody else. I have to smell like somebody else. I have to appear like somebody else. Everything's on the outside's got to be presentable. And then I will get the blessing. And it's an utter failure. Because when he does this, he gets driven out, and the mother who loves him the most, Rebekah, never sees him again. And his brother has such hatred for him that he attempts to kill him. See what Jacob did? He dressed up, he covered, and it went to utter failure. Now, I spent so long talking about blessings, and you're probably looking at your outline saying, but wait a second, isn't this sermon supposed to be about Isaac? And you've talked a whole lot about Jacob. And yes, I have, on purpose. And this is why. Because you and I are Jacobs. We need that blessing, and we crave it. But there's something that you can learn in the faith of Isaac that is profound. And here's what it is. It says in Hebrews 11, remember, that Isaac, by faith, invoked future blessings on his sons. What does that mean? Look at each character in this story. And they are so fouled up. They are so messed up. Rebekah is an over-doting mom who's willing to do anything for her son, lie, and even cheat on her own husband. Jacob is a little petty, cheating liar who gets driven away from the mother he loves. Isaac shows favoritism to Esau through his whole life and screws up the family because of it. And Esau, what you find when you read about him later on, he's rash and hot-headed. He's supposed to be this manly man, but he keeps making horrible decision after horrible decision because he's just so rash. Here's the moral of the story. Everyone is messed up. But Isaac, when he gives the blessing, in verse 33, do you notice the little in part here? He trembles violently. He says, oh no, I get it. It did it the wrong way. But then he pauses and he says, and yes, indeed, he will be blessed. What's going on here? Isaac gets it. Isaac starts to understand something about God that you and I often forget. He looks at his fouled up life. He looks at the mistake he just made. He looks at his two spoiled little children. And he says, God is still working here. He looks at the brokenness of his own family, of his own heart, and he says, indeed, he will be blessed. Why? What he's saying, translation, God works through the weak. God works through the morally corrupt. God works through the broken. God works through the losers, the little ones, the spoiled ones, the ones who showed favoritism. Nobody in this family deserved God's love. But Isaac, in his moment of clarity, says, indeed, he shall be blessed. And it's a way to say this. God works through the messed up. God works through the broken. And God works through the weak. Isaac favored the stronger son, which is what you and I do. We favor the strong people. We want their blessings. But now Isaac sees that it's through Jacob, the younger son, the weaker son, the one who was always hiding in the tents. Through him, the promise is going to be fulfilled. This is completely countercultural at the time, and it's still, I would argue, completely countercultural now. God working through the weak, God working through the losers, God working through the people who've messed up their life. Yes, that's grace. Isaac knows it now for the first time in his life, probably. For the first time, he's starting to say, look at all the mistakes we've made, but God's doing something here. That's faith. Now, let me put it this way. Jacob, when he's blessed, he's the weaker. And he's only points to something greater that Isaac couldn't see, but we can. If you look at the cross, what you'll see is another firstborn. The firstborn son who should have gotten the blessing. But according to Paul in the book of Galatians, Jesus got the curse. Do you see him? Jesus is the weak one that God is working through. God is saying, look, I can work through this. I will work through this. No matter what you've done in your life, you can't escape my grace. And most often when you're at the most messed up point, that's when I'll be working the most. And God says it to Isaac, God says it to us, and the cross is proof of it. Jesus on the cross is a way to say, nice shot. You are loved. But you have to start to see Jesus as becoming weak for you. If you can see that Jacob was just a shadow of what later in his descendants would be in Jesus, then you start to see that the blessing now has come to you. God says, look, you can cover up and you can dress up and you can go around and seek the blessings of everyone in your life, but you only get one blessing, and that blessing's hanging on the cross for you. Take it now. It's a blessing with a capital B. You get that blessing, and you'll never need the blessings of anybody else in your life. You'll never need it. You'll never crave it. You'll never have to dress up again. He's there hanging and dying for you. He's the curse. He should be blessed, but now you are, and I am. And God wants us this morning to take that and hold it and love it, because that's the gospel. God working through the weak to bless the weak. God putting a curse on his son to give you the blessing. To the extent that you and I can see that, and the extent that you can meditate on the fact, That though you seek blessings from every other avenue in your life, you only need this one. You only need God to look at you and say, on the cross, I tell you, son, nice shot. With your big head and your wobbly knees, I would never need another blessing from my earthly father. I already have it from the one who matters, the only one who matters. And the cross is my proof that I have it and I hold it and it will never go away. That's the gospel. That's grace. Do you want that kind of blessing today? That your maker can look at little old you in the back seat of your life and say, nice shot. You're blessed. Hold that. And to conclude, and to make this very practical, are you a blessing to others in your life? Do you go around and bless others? If the grace and the gospel message is in the middle of your heart, when you know that you have been blessed, you then will go out and bless others. If you're not a blessing to others in your life, it's because you haven't felt blessed to begin with. You haven't seen him become the curse so that you have the blessing. The firstborn loses his rights so that you get the rights. How beautiful is that? How blessed is that? Take some time in silent prayer and meditate and reflect on this.